Hello and welcome to WiscoMedia, the show all about Wisconsinites who create and provide content through media and what they are doing to grow with their product as well as their media presence. I'm your host, Tiana Bacon, and we got some great guests here with us today to talk about their media lives. But first, what is media exactly and why is it important for entertainers and businesses? Media is the means of communication through various platforms that reach or influence people. These platforms could be television where you watch the news, newspapers and magazines where we read about politics and sports, radios that provide music and advertisements, and the internet where we can watch so many different kinds of videos as well as search many websites for all sorts of purposes. Our first guest works in an area where we are all familiar with. We listen to it almost every time we get into our cars. It's the radio. Our first guest today is Patrick Pendergast, who is the general manager of Milwaukee FM 102.1. How's your day been so far, Patrick?
So far, so good. Thank you.
Okay, so my first question for you is what led you or inspired you to go into the radio business?
It just kind of happened by happenstance. I was working for an ad agency in the Milwaukee area, and it just wasn't fulfilling my needs. I had friends that were selling radio advertising time. It looked like an interesting career, and something opened up, and I applied for it, and I got the job, and next thing you know, I don't know how many years later, here I am.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question for you is how far out in advance do you have to actually plan out the schedules? Because radios have ad segments, music, advertisements, and songs. So how far in advance do you have to actually create these schedules?
Well, generally a few days in advance. We have what's called clocks, so it's basically kind of set up already. We know that we need X amount of music at a certain, for X amount of minutes. We know when the breaks will be happening. But it's a work in progress, and it takes a lot of time to massage the music logs so that the right songs are playing after the right songs. The last thing you want to do is play, let's say, two female artists back to back. There are tempos that you have to be aware of. You don't want to have two fast tempo songs next to one another. So we call it massaging the logs to make sure that we're getting the optimal sound out of the radio station.
That's interesting. I bet there's a lot of work behind that.
Yeah.
So what strategies and tricks do you guys use in order to gain new listeners and then to keep the ones that you already have engaged?
Well, it's kind of funny you ask that. The ratings methodology that they use now is a small meter device that can actually listen to a radio station. And all of the radio stations in the marketplace have their own inaudible code, and it listens for that code. So it knows what you're listening to at what time. Prior to that, they used to use a diary, and listeners would fill out a diary 7 days a week. And they all received their diaries on a Thursday. So all the radio stations knew that the diary keepers would be much more accurate at the early part of the week when they first received their diaries. So that's when they would do their big money giveaways, always on a Thursday, because they knew people were accurate writing down, which radio station they were listening to. These days, it's not so much because the device actually does everything for you. It's just a matter of making sure that your content is right and that you're relatable and that you're interesting and that you're entertaining. And if you can do that, well, then you've won, 90% of the battle right there.
Yeah. Okay, my next question would be, what's the toughest job in the radio industry?
I think starting out would be the hardest part. Most of the people that get on the air have to start doing the lousiest shifts, late nights, overnights, Sunday mornings, working a board and not being on the air. So it's tough, and it can be a rather nomadic lifestyle in the sense that there's no guarantees. And the people who are working for me now, the on-air staff, I'd say they've all worked in probably a minimum of 2 to 3 radio stations before showing up at FM 102.1. So I guess that would be the hardest part.
Yeah. What do you guys spend your funds on and profits in order to continue to grow as an industry?
A lot of it goes back to our think tank, which for us here in Wisconsin is the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. We donate money to them to support their cause, which is basically the voice of the radio industry. We have done scholarships in the past for one of our owners, Willie Davis, who was a former NFL Green Bay Packer, a Hall of Famer, under his name, and we'll probably be bringing that back after COVID. But generally, it's just supporting the industry through the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association.
Okay, that's amazing. So with my next question would be, with the phones and tablets becoming more popular as far as being able to stream music from them, where do you see the radio business actually going in the future?
Well, it's interesting. Certainly, the advent of the internet has really changed the whole landscape of all media. It is draining a lot of time away from traditional media like newspapers and television and cable and radio too. We haven't been left unscathed in that regard. But the thing is radio is still reaching about 92% of the population every week in, week out. So we're still strong, although everyone just assumes that what we call the pure plays like Spotify and Pandora and XM Sirius, that they drain a substantial amount of listening away from regular terrestrial radio, the business we're in. But that's just not the case. It has, to a certain extent, no doubt about it. But what it requires us to do is to welcome and absorb the changing dynamics of how people use mediums. And our presence is much greater with social media to contact and make that one-to-one contact with our listeners as well. So, we're not down, we're not out, we're still strong. And I think the edge that we have against the what we call the pure plays is that we are local. I mean, we are a Milwaukee radio station, a Wisconsin radio station first, and we are very, very relatable. Even down to traffic, to weather, to what's going on with the Packers, the Brewers, the Bucks. It's something that our competition, at least the internet competition, they don't hold a candle to us in that regard.
That makes sense. Very relatable, having that home advantage. So what does a radio industry employee do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, there's so many different areas. We have in my operation, we have myself. We have a sales manager, which is in charge of all of the advertising sales. We have a business manager. We have a traffic department, and that's not like, beep, beep, drive, drive. That is the department that's responsible for make sure that all of the advertising is placed onto the radio station at the times it was ordered by the advertiser, the number of times it was ordered by the advertiser. That's an entire division. There is the on-air staff. That's another entire division. We have internet people who, what we call our digital manager, who is in charge of our social media platforms. We have our promotions department, which get they're very active in the summer months when there are the festivals here in Milwaukee, where we always have a presence in all the different festivals and events and fairs. And that's a rather large department itself. And then, of course, there's the advertising sales team, which go out and consult with area businesses on their advertising and, try to convince people to use radio and the efficacy of radio in reaching, a large percentage of the population. So lots of different jobs. It's always busy. Any given day in our operation, prior to COVID, there could be 50 people in the building at any given time. That's, of course, been pared down with the downturn in business due to the pandemic. But we're expecting to claw our way back, and we're expecting a good summer and a great second half of the year.
Well, I wish that for you too. But thank you so much for joining us today and talking about the radio business.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
So our next two guests do something very similar to radio. They provide entertainment through audio. They talk about different topics revolving around movies, TV shows, and comics. They create podcasts. Our next two guests we have with us in the studio right now are Andy Rodriguez and Alec Gilbert, the voices behind Cocktails and Comics. How are you two doing today?
Great, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
So my first question for you is, what was the inspiration behind starting this podcast?
I think a big inspiration was basically Alec and I were both very big podcast fans, listened to a lot of them, And we were just very big into the nerd. I mean,
Video games, like we go to the movies all the time together as a group. We get our tickets and stuff. I have a collection of comic books.
Right,
It's literally almost all we talk about together.
almost
so.
at a constant, all the new trailers, everything. So it's been a lot of fun doing that.
That's cool. Okay, so what issues did you guys face when you first started off, and what issues are you still facing now?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is we knew nothing about communications.
We knew nothing about any of that.
No, it was
Electronics,
the soundboards, microphones. So it was we were just trying to learn everything as we were going, just because we kind of jumped in both feet, and just kind of went for a dream that we loved. And we're still figuring that out, all that information, but just trying to better the equipment and then figure out the equipment as well while we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Another issue too is that we do nothing about podcasting. So
Yeah.
having a format, how do we introduce? How do we do an introduction? What's it going to be? How do we start? Where do we finish? So
Yeah.
it's been a learning process, and it still is.
Yeah.
So with that learning process, what tips and tricks do you guys use to improve your material and your listener count?
I think the biggest thing is just, again, jumping, throwing yourself into the fire. I mean, just kind of diving in, doing your research. It's all about being passionate, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we do plan for stuff to talk about and have some ideas on how maybe we want to do the show when we record. And other times, I think it's just when we kind of let ourselves go is when we've had our best material. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how have you guys utilized social media sites to help your podcast to grow?
We definitely created Facebook pages. I think our biggest next step is definitely getting on video and getting into YouTube, since that's where most people are nowadays. But I think we got a lot of people on Facebook to join our pages. But I think word of mouth would probably be the biggest one.
Definitely. I mean, we were gifted by a friend business cards. He gifted us that for when we kind of just started out. So we were able to hand out people our business card that had our website information and where to find us and Facebook and stuff. So basically old school tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. So what kind of equipment do you actually need in order to start a podcast?
I mean, I guess it depends on where you want to start. If you're a solo person, all you need is a laptop and a microphone. So it's very easy to get started in that route. Our direction was we started out with 3 people, and now it's Alec and I. But I mean, we had to get microphone stands. We kind of went for everything at that point. I think the biggest utility was, a monitor and a soundboard, basically.
Yeah, and again, he's kind of the brainchild here, so he took care of most of that work looking for that stuff. And again, we knew nothing about the soundboards or anything, but he took care of it, and we got microphones and the stands, and we were gifted a monitor through a friend's mom, so we had that going, and which made things a lot easier to talk about movies and trailers and stuff. Instead of trying to remember what we saw and to talk about it, we could just view it with the listener.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool. So what has been your favorite memory so far, or your favorite podcast altogether that you guys have done?
I think, we have Cocktails and Comics. We also have another one called Nothing's Off Base. And I feel with both of them, whenever we hit our year mark, we do a year in review. I think that's probably been my favorite,
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I was literally going to say, I'd have to say our year in review is always my favorite episode of the year.
Yeah.
I'd say, because we got the holidays and it gets a little messy in there, and we've had to take weeks off before, but all in all, I'd say after that New Year's happens, that's definitely the favorite episode of the year.
Yeah, talk about everything we learned and just what our favorite things of the year was, and just kind of a look back and how we're going to move forward.
Yeah, reflecting.
Absolutely.
So what's the type of advice that you would give somebody that's looking to start out, that's never had any experience?
I would say just be passionate. I feel like that's for everything. If you got some good buddies that you think you love talking about something. As we were talking before we started, this started around a bar table. We just loved talking about Game of Thrones, all of our nerdy stuff, and it just culminated into 2 podcasts that have been going on for 2 years now, almost 2 years.
And we had people listening around us, and so we kind of had a soft audience, if you will.
Yeah.
And we heard the laughs behind us, and we heard people who are starting to ask questions. And it's like, again, why not just do this? Why not just do this? If people are listening to us now, because they're close quarters, if it's going to be nonsensical air for them, that's how we listen to them. That's
Yeah.
why I listen to them. I love them.
Yeah.
So why not try it? Then nothing can stop you. You know, like he said, if you're solo, you got stuff to get off your chest and do it. If you got a couple of friends or just a friend, sit down. You know, once it's out there, it's out there.
Just be passionate.
That sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for coming, and good luck with the rest of your podcast.
Thank you.
Our next guest got an unexpected role through her life on social media, a role that requires inspiration and growth with a business that mainly runs through social media posts and pictures. We now have Tiffany Hogan with us to talk about being an ambassador for mid-sized queens and her experience on social media. How are you doing today, Tiffany?
I'm doing good.
So my first question for you is, what exactly is mid-sized queens?
Midsize Queens is a body positive clothing brand that was started by this wonderful artist, Lex. She creates clothing and art that promote body acceptance and self-love for all women. My favorite part of this is that all of the clothing is created specifically for you based on your measurements, and you don't have to worry about having a tag on your shirt if you're in eating disorder recovery, because it can be hard to see the label and the size on your clothing sometimes.
No, definitely. So how did you find mid-sized queens?
I found Midsize Queens just by scrolling on TikTok. One of her first videos showed up on my For You page, and from there, I just followed her on Instagram and her Facebook page.
So from there, how were you able to actually become an ambassador for them?
So Lex just made a Facebook post in her page asking if anyone would be interested, and I was one of many different women to say yes. And I didn't really think I was going to be picked, but she messaged me the next day on Instagram and asked if I was still interested. So of course I said yes. And she picked me and 3 other amazing women, and we all have different body types to show diversity and inclusiveness on the website.
That's amazing. What does it all entail of you actually being an ambassador?
So when Lex is getting ready to send out a new product, she's gonna ship it to me so I can take pictures of myself in them and just be a model for the website. And then I just have to give a description of the size I'm wearing, if it's cropped, the length of the shirt, and just basically how I feel in it. So people with a body type similar to mine might be able to be confident in what they're buying.
Okay. So what has this experience taught you about like the business side of social media?
Anyone can start a business in social media. As long as you have an idea and you put it out there, you're gonna find people who will support you all over the world. And you don't have to have a certain look to be a brand ambassador or have a certain amount of followers. As long as you're nice to people over the internet, it's gonna go a long way. I mean, that's how I got my job, just being nice and supportive.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and talking about your experience being a brand ambassador, and I wish the best of luck to you and Lex.
Thank you.
A popular type of visual media that people are watching more and more of is live streams, specifically of video games. Live streaming may seem hard to set up, but it's actually quite easy if you know what equipment and mindset you need.
Marshall Zimplinski is an employee for No Studios and is a producer for Natural One Media on Twitch. He has a lot of knowledge to share about getting a live stream started and rolling.
The best way that I would say to get into streaming is, first of all, I would say just download any free live stream program like Streamlabs OBS or OBS, Open Broadcasting System. They're free and easy to use, and they have a significant amount of online tutorials that make it super fast to get online and streaming to an audience that on Twitch, YouTube, even Vimeo or Facebook. The other thing that's really important with getting started on live streaming is audio. A webcam is really easy to buy. You can get one for like 15 bucks, and as long as it's color, you'll probably be fine. But on audio, like good audio is going to be the make or break situation on whether or not anybody wants to keep watching you. If you come in and you just sound overly compressed and garbled up, no one's gonna wanna keep listening to you for potentially hours at a time. So the best way to get good audio for not a whole lot is actually to get a dynamic mic a lot like this one. This one, for example, is 20 bucks, And you can get a lot of cheap XLR interfaces out on Amazon from many different companies for not much more than the 20 bucks that this is. And from that, you can get yourself with great sounding audio for not a whole lot of money. Don't worry about whether or not how much anything costs. Spending money on live streaming gear isn't going to guarantee your success. The number one thing when getting started with live streaming is not to let whatever kind of hot topic of the week to guide what you want to do. Play what you want to play or stream what you want to stream. If you just want to stream yourself talking to your chat, go ahead. If you want to play a tabletop RPG, much like we do on Natural One Media, then go ahead and do so. Your audience will come when you speak with them and when you create something that is entertaining and fun to watch. So get creative and just have fun with it. The more you enjoy streaming, the more people will enjoy watching you.
Marshall had a lot of good advice for those interested in starting up their own live stream. Marshall mostly streams video games on his Twitch channel, and we have someone with us now who can share more about his experiences with creating video game content and what kinds of opportunities that led him to be a part of. With us now is Noah Bloom, also known as Kingdom in the Super Smash Bros. Scene. How's it going, Noah?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Okay, so my first question is, how did your love of games actually start?
It all started back when I was about 5 years old. I got the Nintendo GameCube, and I just fell in love with video games since then. I played them almost every day, to be honest, and I was a really big fan of any Mario game or the Super Smash Brothers games on the GameCube, and I've just been playing them ever since. They've always just been a place to go to after a long day of school or even work now, and I just love them a lot.
That's cool. So what inspired you to actually start creating gaming content on Instagram?
So after I got involved in the Smash community a lot more, like participating in tournaments, I wanted to be able to share what I've been doing on my own and like how I'm improving myself too. So I wanted to post videos of me, you know, like tips and tricks and things I've learned in the game. And especially when COVID hit, you know, I wasn't able to go to these people I've met in real life and all these Smash friends. So I figured Instagram would be a good outlet to share all this stuff. And Instagram has people a lot more my age, I would say. So that's why I wanted to try that app out for starters.
Okay. So what is it that you do with your content that helps to not only keep the people engaged that you already have, but to also bring in new followers?
So I try to make my content funny and entertaining. For entertaining, it's more, I guess what people are looking for is like skill in the game. And funny, I try to incorporate a lot of like humor and references to movies and shows. And I think it makes a good balance. Like it makes people who are into funny content want to watch it. People who are more looking for people to fight through Instagram, you know, it's a good balance. And one thing I always tell myself is to always improve from my last video. Like I'll watch my videos about 10, 15, 20 times when they come out because I just want to see what I did right. And I'll compare like how this video did versus another video. So I always just want to improve. And I think doing that has just helped me grow really fast and just make better videos.
Yeah, that's good. You can see the engagement of who's interacting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've grown fast in the past couple months.
So what kind of opportunities has this opened up for you by doing these contents?
I've definitely met a lot of friends and made a whole bunch of new friendships over the past couple months. One of the things I wasn't expecting is that there is this company that makes bars of soap kind of based off video games. It's kind of more satire, but I became a sponsor for them. And now you can use Kingdom as a discount code and get 10% off on Smasher soap. So I thought that was kind of cool. I've been invited to join different crews, which are teams of players on Smash Bros that compete against each other. So it's a lot of fun being a part of the community and growing and having people look up to you too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of like your social life, like how is it hard for you to balance that with creating content and keeping up with, you know, making videos?
Oh, for sure. I'm usually a very busy person and I try to do the Instagram page on as much of my free time as I can do it because I'm going to school full time and I work as much as I can. So I try to do these things pretty much whenever I have free time. And I do miss out on a lot of opportunities, like people will host tournaments and I'll miss out, unfortunately, because I'll be in school or at work. And I always feel bad, so I always try to make it up to people. You know, I'll offer to play with them, talk with them, and just do what I can.
All right. Where do you hope to see yourself in the future with creating gaming content?
With my page, I definitely want to just keep growing and trying to change what I do. I definitely want to try to get Twitch streaming more of a thing, as I've done it with my friend recently. A lot of my followers really like that. So I want to try to do that on my own. And I might try to start posting other video game content other than Smash, because I want to make the title Kingdom not just Smash, but more of a, the online aspect of who I am in other games, and maybe involve other cosplaying and just inspire people to do that, because I've done that in the past and it's pretty successful.
Branching out with different
Yeah.
avenues, yeah. That's good. So what piece of advice would you give somebody that's wanting to start out with their own gaming content career?
I would say to definitely just work hard and try to post as much as you can, but don't post too much. Like, I try to think, like, I don't want, my followers to think I'm annoying and post every day. So I try to post every few days or so. And another piece of advice is to be nice to people, because a lot of people tell me that I'm like the nicest person they've met on there. And I mean, I am pretty nice to people, because a lot of people complain that the community can be a little harsh to each other, but I guess I've offered a bright light for these people, and that's what inspires me to keep going. So I just want other people to be like me and be nice to one another.
Yeah, need more love.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and best of luck to you with your gaming career.
Thank you.
So that's all the time we have today on WiscoMedia. There were a lot of thoughts and stories shared today about media users and creators and what they are doing to grow. I hope you guys can look at what these people have done and apply it to create a product or a business, share entertainment, and help give people something great to watch or read about. I'm Tiana Bacon. Have a great night.